Cougar Sports Saturday.
It's complete. Another touchdown!
Cougar Sports Saturday. A presentation of KSL Sports.
Left wing for three. He got it again!
BYU Sports Talk by Cougar fans for Cougar fans. Here are your hosts, Mitch Harper and Matt Baiamonte. On Utah's legacy home of the Cougars. KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
Welcome back in to Cougar Sports Saturday, brought to you by Any Hour Electrical, Plumbing, Heating, and Air. Still taking text, 57500. We're breaking down a monumental win over Oklahoma State. Not because Oklahoma State is some great football team. They haven't won a game in the Big 12, Mitch, but it was monumental in that BYU showed us something that they hadn't showed us yet before, an ability to win when they don't play good football. Defensively, not great. Offensively, way too many turnovers in that game. I mean, that first turnover by Jake was a bad decision because you had a field goal in the back pocket. You don't need to force that in. And what was that trick play call with Ropati?
Yeah.
Looked like that didn't make a lot of sense to me either, but yet they won. We can celebrate and revel in the moment that they put together a 1-minute drive to win the game. Something you don't see all that often. That's what made it so special.
That's a good pull on the Ropati trick play that ended up in an interception. It's easy to forget those moments in the game because we were talking about it in one of the breaks earlier today. That 1 minute, last 73 seconds, that just consumes everything. Like that was only a minute 13, but it just had a lifetime worth of content and memories and thoughts and breakdown, and every step was just analyzed in those minute 13. So almost the rest of the game in some respects kind of gets forgotten at times. But yeah, that was a little bit too cute. BYU, oddly enough, they had 3 turnovers in this game yesterday, 2 of which coming out of timeouts. Those were play calls that they dialed up out of timeouts. That trick play with Ropati, I did not like that at all. And I love that BYU, part of their identity is they've got a book that's deep with specials. And every team now, you better be ready for a trick play or 2 from BYU because they're coming. But that was not the right spot. And just maybe not the right spot is not the way to put it, but not the right personnel. Ropati's never thrown a pass. And it should be his last pass. And no offense to the man. I mean, that's a tough spot, but he lobbed it up. It was ready to be picked.
And that's a hard spot, too, for a guy like him because the play call is throw it. He's not in that situation.
Right.
Like, ideally, you would have said, this play is blown up. We're just going to eat the play. But that's not what the play is intended to do. And so then at least it felt this way from my vantage point. It felt like, well, I have to throw this ball. I also thought there might have been a PI at the end of that, too, but nevertheless, I didn't love that, but normally we would spend segments worth breaking down what could have been, and yet what could have been is not the storyline. It's what actually happened with the win.
And I thought at the end of the first half, the decision to call a timeout with 3 seconds left from their own 44, I thought that was a bit odd. Like, especially when I'm thinking, just move on, go to the halftime break, and then it almost – for a second felt like it was costly because Jake's left arm, shoulder, arm, he goes in the locker room and he's just holding it straight. And I'm thinking everyone in the media, the press box was monitoring that sideline when BYU came out at the halftime break. And Jake looked fine. I mean, again, it was non-throwing side.
But that was a big play, too, because he doesn't make that tackle. Do they take that to the house? And then you're down 28-14. There was not a lot of guys left to make the play. It was like him, maybe a running back. I don't remember if it was LJ or Hinckley, and then like a lineman. But that very easily could have been returned for a touchdown.
And so he comes back out to begin the second half, and he's throwing the football. And Dr. Skylar Main, the guy with probably his Cougar fans that maybe don't get deep into the support staff, the guy with the mustache.
Yes.
But, yeah, he's doing a great job.
Cats and mustache.
Yes. He was monitoring Jake, and Jake was fine, and he played it out. He downplayed the injury, and so did Kalani in the post game. But that was something that was just, and I'm curious to see maybe how he's feeling today because, we've seen in the past, like Sione Aimoa, he still got held out, the running back, had a great performance against K-State. All indications were he was fine, and then the adrenaline comes down. How do you feel today, the day after? So that'll be something that's kind of something to monitor. Same with Darius Lassiter, who acknowledged that he kind of dinged up his shoulder a couple drives before the game-winning drive against Oklahoma State, but a gritty win from this BYU football team that's just finding ways to get victories and never take that for granted, because this Big 12 conference, we're watching action today around the league. It's a wild league. I mean, Kansas taking care of business right now, 28-7. Houston's terrible. BYU, should we just assume BYU is at least 8-0 because that senior day is going to be a win over the Cougs? Colorado's up 14-0, but Arizona's about to go into the end zone, it looks like. They've had issues with that this season as they get stopped at the line of scrimmage there. And then your upset pick, Baylor. Did you pick up Baylor? Did you end up picking them? In the show earlier today?
Yes, I think Baylor can win that game. Sawyer Robertson's playing good football. 7-0
up on Texas Tech right now. So BYU fans got to be pulling for that. Get clear of the deck. Get everyone to lose games in the Big 12 except BYU. And that creates more of a margin for error for the Cougs.
Let's get Nate and Allie in here. I want to have a discussion about some of the, we focus so much on the final drive, and rightfully so, but there were so many other critical plays. I just want to kind of off the cuff here go through some plays we thought were really significant, because I got one for you. I don't know. This is the first time I've thought of it, but it was a really heads-up play. So Jake takes off on the final drive. Makes that cut back inside, gets to about the 35-yard line on the scramble. You have one timeout left, but you don't want to use it there. Calm, cool, collected, gathers the group together, clocks the ball. Contrast that against what we saw last week up in Eugene, where Ohio State really poor clock management on that final drive, and it cost them. They ran out of time before they could even take a crack at a field goal. So their ability to navigate the clock, some credit should be given to Kalani as well, taking that timeout quickly after Kibo was tackled in bounds. Great clock management on that final drive, because that could have been frantic and you could have lost time, and then who knows what happened. So that was really well executed by the offense.
That's a great pull, because Kalani had issues with that last year. Time management was not on the side of this coaching staff. They were poor in managing timeouts and clock management. And I like that pull, that shout out for that, because this coaching staff, they've done a nice job on all fronts and navigating the hype. And I just think that Kalani, you can't be down on that guy right now. I mean, he is doing a fantastic job with this BYU football program, as we've got producer Nate and intern Allie into the studio. Allie, what's some of the moments beyond just that final drive that stand out to you from BYU's memorable win over Oklahoma State last night?
Yeah, I think, as you guys have talked about earlier, I think LJ Martin definitely stood out. He had over 100 yards, and I don't know, nothing specific, but just his overall game, I thought he just played really well, and he stood out to me.
LJ, 20 carries, 120 yards, 2 touchdowns. He looked brilliant, Matt, and, it was the healthiest I think he's been since spring football. Before he suffered the shoulder injury, you could say probably the healthiest he's been since the SMU game. But LJ, clearly an RB1, but the nice thing is they've got depth. And the moment when Sione Aimoa comes back, though, you got Martin, you got Ropati, you got Moa. That's a good situation. Look, I was kind of skeptical a bit of Ropati, what he was going to do. I know you were high on him. I thought he looked good, too.
Yeah, he did. He had the highest yards per average of all the running backs, 7.8 yards per carry, 6 attempts for 47 yards. I think the impact of LJ can be explained by one statistic. BYU, which has struggled on third down all season long, 50%. Then you plug in the fourth down conversions, 7 of 12 against Oklahoma State. That's because they were in short yardage situations, because LJ was picking up good chunks on first and second.
Producer Nate Slack, what's some of the deep cuts that you've got from BYU's big win over the Pokes?
Yeah, so the last drive on defense, I was watching some of the players that were on the field for BYU, and I was surprised because we didn't see a lot of Tanner Wall in that possession. We didn't really see a lot of Michael Harper at all yesterday. But there were a number of times when Jonathan Cabella is taking big snaps on that last drive. Falatau Satawala.
He did that too, Cabella, against Baylor.
Yeah.
So this is becoming a trend where he's their backup nickel. If Jacob Robinson goes down, it's Cabella.
Yeah, he is. And Raider Mooney got a lot of snaps. Tommy Parasis kind of got cooked on one of those touchdowns that they had, Oklahoma State had last night. Kind of reminded me of the Baylor game as well, where he just kind of makes a wrong read, I think, and kind of, I mean,
he's a true freshman.
It's a freshman mistake, and that's going to happen.
The fact that he's got a scoop and score, a pick, he's going to be a good one. Him and
He is gonna be
Falatau
really
are
good.
going to be awesome, but just the fact that they're in these games, and I think that can't be discussed enough, is despite, this 7-0 start, a lot of these young guys are getting valuable snaps. So continue.
Yeah, no, I mean, I had a post on X earlier this week about that. It's how many players are going to be returning next season.
That's a good point.
And you don't want to look too far ahead because this has been a really fun season. You don't want to take away anything from that. But when you look at how many guys on, the defensive line is pretty much going to be new next year when it comes to starters. But the linebackers could all return. The safeties could all return. The wide receivers could return for the most part. It's a loaded team next season. So, again, you don't want to look too far ahead because you want to enjoy the ride right now. But it is fun to see a lot of these young guys playing big snaps.
Another deep cut. I'm just kind of trying to put the final drive behind and thinking about other significant moments. Two really come to mind. Chase Roberts makes two of the biggest catches of the games, and one of them we don't even remember. But do you remember that crossing route where BYU had – the game was tied at 28. BYU facing a 3rd and 4 on their side of the field. Chase runs a little stutter out and makes a congested catch, gets the first down. That eventually leads to a field goal. That's another 3 and outs, and the momentum goes back to Oklahoma State. Like, he had a couple massive grabs that extended drives in that game, and they don't result in Chase Roberts' touchdown, so you forget them, but he was clutch on critical downs.
Nice pull there. How about the beginning of the third quarter? Oklahoma State moves down the field, 48-yard field goal attempt, missed. All points are critical, especially in a game that ends up in a 3-point difference. So that was big, too, for BYU to get a stand because, again, Oklahoma State halftime lead, 21-14. Had they got up by 10, that's a different feel when you're not down one possession. So that was a big moment, too. And, BYU, bounced back. And I believe that next possession The next possession
was it the Keelan Marion post corner?
I believe so. And then that was the drive LJ Martin hit the century mark on the touchdown. Then they tied it up, 5:51 remaining, and it was 21-all. So big sequence there. I mean, that's a 10-point swing. So it's a big moments for BYU all throughout that game that go beyond that final drive. Let's keep talking about it more as we wrap up today's show. It's been a fantastic show. Cougar Sports Saturday, Mitch Harper, Matt Baiamonte taking our final timeout. We'll continue to talk more Cougar football next.